Bring your drinks and things with you.
Is that still by you take? No, I don't know. Not by me.
Come on, cross the floor. Crawling, crawling. Okay, so let's just talk for a few minutes about how you're going finding people to practice with. So some of you maybe have co-opted family or friends or workmates. How are you going about finding people to begin to practice with? I'll give him the mic.
Yeah, I ended up quite bravely, I thought, sending out an email to the whole of my college, which is probably about 80 staff. And I think 5 or so have responded.
Well done.
And I've got them on the 2nd of May, and it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do with them? Because I don't want to lose them.
I think we recognise that sentiment.
I was just going to say, Nicole, because we were talking about running the groups and that sort of thing, and Nicole and I were talking about how, you know, if you've only got 5 people and then one person says, oh, like, you know, after they've done it several times, it's not really for me, and they pull out and stuff, how you sort of like, you just really want them to stay. But we were talking about how, you know, it's not for everyone. Like even yoga is like a massive fad, but that's not for everyone, like when they try it. And so like just being okay with even if you've got a small group that, you know, like try to keep them engaged and make it interesting and relevant for them, but that if 1 or 2 drop out, that's okay. And I just thought that was really, I just wanted to mention that because I thought Nicole has done a really good job.
Yeah, it is a challenge when you start with a small group, because for many people it is so different from what they've done before that they're not quite sure what to make of it. And so maybe kind of dropping in the odd hint that, you know, sometimes it actually takes a couple of sessions before you start to notice the differences, or you really get the hang of these funny little movements, and to consciously encourage people to come back, you know, even if maybe it all seemed a bit weird the first time, to give it another go. Do you remember what you titled your email?
I think I just said awareness.
Awareness through movement? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, what have other people been doing?
I had a client with a C567 fusion, and I thought his goal was he just would like to move a bit easier and be able to relax. So I did just a one-on-one, very, very extremely small ATM with him, with, you know, moving the knees to the left and to the right, and then the head following, but really almost not visible movements. And he thought it was too much. He thought, I said to him, did you have any negative effects? No, absolutely not. But I don't want to challenge it.
Yep.
And you could visibly see after these tiny, tiny movements, and it could feel distinctions too, that he suddenly had his shoulders involved when he was walking, and his arms, but and that I thought was very frustrating, because it really,
so you could see the difference, but
I could see it even with this tiny, but I don't want to challenge myself.
Well, I guess, you know, that makes sense. If you've been in extreme pain for some time and your experience of going to visit these helpful practitioners is that you come away with even more pain than you went in with,
he like say he didn't. And I said, are you sure? No, absolutely.
Yeah, but
nothing.
before he came to
Yeah,
you, I bet
yeah.
when he'd been to see other people, they probably did things to him or asked him to do things that made more pain rather than less. And so, yeah, at the one hand, we have people who are fearful of doing anything because of their fear of pain. And at the other extreme, we have a lady in one of my classes a year or two back who came to me because of fibromyalgia and chronic pain issues, and a kind of a lifestyle where she'd go like a bat out of hell for as many days as she could and then collapse with a migraine. And I worked with her with FI for some time, which seemed to be helping. But then she said, it would be great if we could have a class in my area. So bravely I said, yeah, okay. You know, you round up a few people, we'll see what we can do. When I saw her on the floor, I explained really carefully, like I'm sure all of you would, that we do small, gentle movements. We do them slowly. We do less than what's possible. But what does she do? Ow! Ow! Stop! Do less. Oh, no, it's all right. Ow! Ow! You think, is this a pattern in her life? Maybe. And so, yeah, you want to try and shepherd people somewhere between those two kind of limits of have a go at something, but please don't create pain for yourself. You've got enough of that already. So, okay, so Awareness Through Movement as an email title got 5 responses. What else have you been trying? I mean, Martoni's got people that walk in the door and so they're kind of captive. That's fantastic. Oh, great, thank you. You're going to do some Awareness Through Movement.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
This is a question.
Can you pass
I'll bring it back in a minute.
Is the objective that we are, as of last segment, I just can't remember, are we meant to be conducting our own Awareness Through Movement classes? Because I know the homework was, in the last segment, was to develop.
Was to practice with a colleague.
Yeah. So is that the objective now, to start doing holus bolus classes?
Well, no. Oh, yes, depending. And that's the correct Feldenkrais answer always. It depends. It depends. Yeah. Now, the only way to get good at something is to practice it. That's the reality, you know, in any aspect of life. And so, yes, as students, we encourage you to find opportunities to start practicing teaching awareness through movement to all kinds of people. And so whether it's, you know, your own kids or the kids next door, or just having a little bit of play with something, whether it's people who come to you in a professional capacity that you can do something a little different with, or whether it's, you know, your workmates where you say, look, I'd like to share, you know, what I do when I disappear for weeks at a time. Would you be willing to come and give it a try? Because I need to practice. You're not yet allowed to call yourself an Awareness Through Movement teacher and charge money for the privilege. But later in the year, and it's only, you know, 6 months or so, and you will be allowed to do that. So we encourage you to find ways of starting to practice so that little by little it becomes something that's more familiar and easier for you.
So, follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
Is there well, I understand there's not a template that you want us to follow, but is there a set of guidelines as such that that would be good for us to keep in mind or to follow as well?
A template for what?
Well, the layout of, forget that because Julie already answered it the other day, that everyone does it differently.
Yep.
But in terms of the learning attributes of the Feldenkrais method as evident in Awareness Through Movement, like something to encourage us to how to begin, how to commence those sort of classes with people who are uninitiated, to encourage them into all the the slow movement and the et cetera,
that's something that is also useful to practice too. And I'll talk with Julie, and we might actually talk more about that together. Because when you come in here, sometimes we say good morning, lie on the floor, but it's boom, get down there and get into it. And by now, you know what to do. You know pretty much, even if we were to say just take a few minutes to scan yourself, you know how to do that. You know the general process. But with people that haven't done that before, that's the first step. We have to help them to learn how to do awareness through movement. And in my experience of going to classes run by other people, maybe I've kind of come in not at the beginning, but there is this kind of pattern of lie on your back and away we go. Now, sometimes in the course of the lesson, there's some description of how to do things, or some encouragement about what to pay attention to, or the process by which we do it. But certainly on your first day, when you bring those 5 people into a room and you say, thanks for coming, lie on your back is probably not the first thing you want to say to them. So whether or not it goes into your homework, I really encourage you to start to think about how would you introduce it. You're going to spend half an hour giving a lecture about the importance of small, slow movements and how less is more and blah, blah. Or would you do a few minutes of that and then a little example of what that might feel like and then the lesson? Or would you do a few minutes and start into the lesson, but during the rest breaks take time to explain what we're doing and why and how?
Because I didn't start like that as usual. I walked into the office with people going, oh, gee, this really hurts. Mm-hmm. So I felt my pelvis and I went, oh, really? And I listened. And I remember Priscilla, who's our head office lady, going, oh, God, Margaret, can you just do something with my neck? So I would come in and go, I've just done this thing and wow, look, because they can see I'm not limping as much. So I didn't introduce it in a formal sense. They watched what I did, and it was like, you lie down, you relax. I showed a couple of people how to palm their eyes, and they did that, and then they did it with their classes. And then I'm sitting with one lady and she's going, oh, like Priscilla has got, this is really hurting. And the other lady, Lyrica, is looking and laughing. And we're going, come on, Priscilla, give up your arm. And Priscilla won't. And she goes, oh, I have now. And we look and we laugh because we're watching this lady going, oh, I'm not breathing. Oh, I'm still not. Oh, and so it's a thing where it's like you talk about before you get to lying down on the floor. It's like, oh yeah, I could really. Do you want to come upstairs and lie down and relax, kind of thing? And it's like, oh yes, can you please talk to us about that? But where it's come from is from just coming in a different state, having people see and talking to them about, I've been doing this training. So they're not cold, they're walking into my room for the first time. It's really informal, and the rapport and the warmth is there to start with. Yep. And I'm scared.
So you've kind of gradually built that
up, except had no time to do it. But they really did want, because school got insane, but they really did want to. And when we finally got upstairs on the floor, all we managed was a scan because I couldn't do anymore.
Mm-hmm. So that's fine. But and they noticed when they stood up.
And they noticed when they stood up, but they noticed when somebody comes in who's been doing it, and you talk about that, and that helps in the workplace. So I don't know who you work with, but bloody hell, tell them how you feel. Because it really speaks to them.
People will notice the differences in you
they do.
To some degree. Okay, what else are you doing to find? Yeah.
I don't know really how to have a follow through on the sessions. So like if I would have a 6 weeks program, how would I go from session to session? How much would you repeat from the previous session? So
what's the correct answer?
Yes, no, perhaps.
It all depends.
Jenny, don't leave me high and dry here.
No, this is actually not where I want to go today, but it is a really important question, and it is something that we will explore as a group. How do we put together a series of lessons?
That holds me back of not really getting into it and having a 6 weeks program, because I'm not sure really how to structure it. And
Great. Okay. We will definitely get to that, and I will make sure I talk to Julie about doing that together. What I'm interested just today at this point is, how are you starting to find people to play with? Those of you who are beginning to do that. Yeah, that's good. That's good practice.
I've had a chat to Marissa, but I'm still a little bit confused being sort of a registered physio, but obviously I work in the corporate sort of field, so I don't really have patients or anything, as to how, like, can we, like, do we still need to, so I was speaking to the yoga teacher, I've got a ripe sort of group, I guess, because I go to a yoga school.
Right.
So I've had the half a conversation and I think she'd be willing to engage, but I'm still a little bit unclear. Do I just say, oh, I want to offer a free trial to, you know, like a Friday night, I want to offer this free awareness through movement lesson. Can I extend it to the yoga community? Or can I say that, you know, I have a background in physio and can I call it, you know, mindful movement and charge it? I'm still quite lost. I'm just trying to work through all of that.
Okay. What I would suggest is that you say that you are a student of the Feldenkrais method. And that you, part of your learning process is to begin teaching to people and building your skills and getting feedback on how things work for them. And is there anyone who's willing to volunteer to come and help you with that? Because these are the sorts of things they might find that are useful to them. You know, maybe it's easier to sustain their poses, or maybe it's easier to get into some particular shapes, or maybe it's what are the benefits?
And also in terms of
go on.
Sorry, no, it was just one other addition to that, because I've just been sort of if there's particular, like I was trying to also think about, are there particular lessons, you know, that give you more bang for buck, that people want to come back and go, ooh, that you're more likely to feel something, like most people are likely to feel something. Or that there's that, because I think Viv, when she got us to sort of turn around and look, it was almost that, you know, like as a physio, you do that measurement before and after in terms of outcome measures. It's like, oh, I could only turn this much, that they can actually see at the end of the lesson, oh my God, I'm turning so much more, to give them something objective. Like Martina saw that guy was able to move a lot, but he couldn't see the before and after. So whether you have something that's measurable and tangible and visible, that they can go, oh, I could only move that much, and wow, I can move so much more now. So sort of just thinking about all of those different things, you know, what lesson would give more bang for buck?
It's really good to think about how do you help people recognise the difference. And so different lessons tend to evoke different things, but because we're all strange, curious individuals with our own funny patterns, we can all do the same lesson and come up saying, oh, that was fantastic for my shoulders, and someone else will say, that was great for my neck, and someone else will say, but my feet feel so different on the floor. So people will get different things out of it, which is exciting and frustrating sometimes, because, you know, you think you set up your before moves so that people have got a good reference to come back to later, and then you find people are saying, oh, but, you know, my neck feels different, and we didn't particularly pay attention to that, and nobody else can remember what their neck felt like. So
you've got someone come in, have a chat, and you know, for example, that they've got a sore neck.
Well, we're not quite into consulting yet. We're thinking about just starting some practice teaching. You know, we've still got a way to go before you're out there really running fair income classes, and there are some things to learn. Fiona's been patiently waiting. So.
I just, I understand a lot of these questions being asked, because I think the same thing, especially what Vishali was saying, not in terms of whether I can say I'm a physio, of course, but I wonder about, is there a danger in us going out and saying, I just want to do these practice groups and things, that you're then letting everyone know, I don't actually know what I'm doing yet, but then you might be trying to pitch to the same group later. Now I do, so I want you to... Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Because if I went to along to one, I thought, I don't think she really knows what she's doing. I wouldn't go back, even if I knew that they'd since graduated.
Yeah,
I worry about that a bit.
you might want to think about that, and maybe it's an issue. But I mean, people in general are kind, and so if you ask for help, if you say, I'm in a learning process, you know, I'm not an expert yet, but I have learned a few things. I've learned enough to be trusted by my teachers to start working with the public. And what happens then, if you can give them a small positive experience, or at least not a negative one, and encourage them to come back next week, they can become quite loyal devotees. And so when you're ready to start your classes, there they are ready to go. I mean, certainly if you've pissed them all off before you start, well, move somewhere else. Okay, finding people is the thread we're on at the moment.
Yeah. I don't know if this is premature, but my mother-in-law's just moved she's moving into a place called Street and Apartments, and I noticed they've got a gym area and there's a Pilates session that happens in there, but there would be nothing stopping you from doing a little leaflet and putting it in all the little mailboxes and just saying, you know, there'll be a session approaching them.
You probably need to check with whoever the management
Yeah, just
people
go
are.
to the front desk or whatever, but there's 80 residents or 80 units in there.
Yep.
In Heidelberg, if you live near there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you'll have to get the cooperation from them, but you are covered under college insurance because this is part of your homework, is to begin to practice teaching. So you need to say that you're a student.
Yeah.
You need to say that, you know, you appreciate them donating their time. And, you know...
Damage is covered by our insurance.
Yeah, please don't say that.
I think it's...
Yes and no. Yes, if you're doing your homework. Once you start charging for classes, you need your own student insurance, but that's like $100 or something, so it's no big deal. Yes, they do sometimes ask for a copy of the insurance, which I can send you. Okay, Silvana.
What I can relate to what Fiona mentioned, and for those reasons, I've started small and slow with family who can sometimes be more forgiving than strangers and friends or work colleagues. But even if they can't, there's the ability to have that banter between each other, you know, and it's a little bit easier until I build up my confidence. It means that it can be a bit more casual and that you don't have to follow a full lesson, you can just do a bit. And that's what's been working for me at the moment. Right. The thought of dropping pamphlets or trying to work with even work colleagues that you can banter with, but not the same with close family and friends, is quite daunting for me. So I've just decided I'm going to go with people that I feel that I don't have as big a expectation with, and even if they notice it's a bit dodgy, because they're family or friends, hopefully when I get better they'll believe me to come and try it out. Well, that's the approach I've taken.
They will have experienced the benefits in themselves. And, you know, you will have watched all of us muddle up our lefts and rights and, you know, get things out of order and screw it up. Human beings make mistakes. But if the people start to experience the benefits for themselves, and that's one of the beauties of this work, is we don't have to be kind of experts in things, except in creating a learning environment where we provide a fairly kind of open framework and structure that people make their own discoveries. So we do need to kind of control the traffic a little bit, as in slowing them down or making sure they stay within a range that's safe, and that they have kind of understood the intention of the direction of the movement or what they're supposed to pay attention to. But yeah, they do the learning and they make the discoveries, and once they start to do that, often then they want to come back and have some more. So
Danielle and Anka in Hobart have gotten sort of involved with a senior citizens club. And I think they're running some stuff through there. Yeah, I think they're going quite well with it. So that's another
Great.
avenue.
So places like that where certainly people can appreciate the benefits of moving a little more easily and they're willing to come to something that they don't have to pay for, great opportunities to practice. Okay, let me ask you a different question. How many people open every email that comes past?
From you.
Not from me, not from me. In your inbox. How many people open every email that comes into their inbox? No. Okay. If it says Jenny, of course you open it. I understand that. But if it says SEO specialist or not that one. Okay.
Free, the subject line. Free.
Okay. So these days, you are familiar with that experience of information bombardment.
Oh, very discerning.
That's good.
Great discrimination.
So you've obviously developed some kind of mental coding that says these ones are worth a second glance and these ones I should definitely open, but these ones are going straight in the trash. Okay. When you start talking to people about the idea of coming along to an awareness through movement class or helping you with your learning journey or whatever it is that you're going to invite them to do, how are you going to frame your offer in a way that encourages them to give it a second glance and not just let it go by as one of those this is not relevant to me things? Well, it could be email. Some of you might use other social media things. Maybe you have a flyer that you put around certain places. Maybe you have a brochure or a pamphlet that's got a headline on it.
Because what the people who send stuff through the Elder Crisis Association review, I've got several emails, people going, oh, someone needs somewhere to live. Alan Questel's running a training.
Yeah,
these people are running AGM classes.
Yep.
Why isn't that available to us? Is it?
What do you mean they're not available to you?
How are they available to us? Because if we talk to those people.
Could we just stay with the subject that we're on at the moment? This is not about guild emails. This is about how are you going to attract the attention of the people that you want to have a conversation with?
No, you've been waiting for ages.
Give it to...
Oh, maybe.
I just thought I'd answer your question.
Thank you.
Which is one of the things I've been considering is the school newsletter.
Okay, great.
Simply because I know that most mums do scan through it.
Yep.
And that there was a woman who does an IT something or other thing.
Yep.
And it started off with through the school newsletter, and she's just gone gangbusters because it just attracted a few mums, and it was really pitched at no one's got time anymore, and she did a lot of free little things and then got some people in, and now she does half-day courses and stuff like that. Yeah. So maybe that's something.
Okay. So it was about time that people recognised that she's talking to me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So there are some words that you're going to think, oh, maybe that's relevant to me. And there are other words you're going to look at and you think, that's not relevant to me. Okay. Viv, did you want to say something?
Originally it was on another subject and it was covered. That's great.
Okay.
But the caption and the introductory words is what I was going to say on this, that to me that's the key because you've got to grab their attention and hold their attention.
You've got to grab it long enough that they read the second line or open the email or whatever it is.
I have an answer.
Simon has an answer.
For me, and I imagine for everyone, in commencing this kind of outreach, when you are contacting a network that is familiar to you and you are familiar to that network, then your name is the currency. Because they recognise the name. And I certainly know that's how my inbox works. If I recognise the sender, then that's what's going to sort of dictate whether I what comes next. So I imagine if you're starting small and starting with whether it's your school network or it's your work network or a social network, then that gives you a great access.
Yeah. So in your workplace and your family, and maybe to some degree in sort of clubs or social settings, people will recognise your name. So if that's sort of boldly presented, that would be good. In the school community, do they recognise your name? Or some will.
Yeah, there's always class representatives. So what I've seen happen sometimes for a parent that might not be that involved is they'll send it to the class rep and ask, do you mind distributing? So you'll see it from the class rep saying, I've forwarded this on behalf of whoever. And I'll generally read them, or at least see what it is.
You trust them to screen things a little bit? Yep.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. So yes, your name and your reputation has some value.
I was going to say too, I just happened to have a friend who's a graphic designer, and I thought I may as well get in early and try and make something attractive in terms of logo and that type of thing. So that's a kind of branding, I suppose, too. Yeah, so it's
okay. So image, if that's relevant in the context, can have some effect.
Did you offer him free?
Because if he's doing that for you, get him on the floor. Give him some FI. Stop that. She'll be just as happy. It's gonads are no compromise. Just make a problem. Get the person down there, because they also, as advertisers, speak to other people, and you want to build. I love the word of mouth thing. I don't come here because of their advertising.
If someone is going to design logos and write stuff for you, certainly helping them to have some experience of what it is they're going to work with is a good idea.
I was just going to say, like, depending on where you're targeting, like Fiona made a really good example with the newsletter, but even if it is like a aged care place or something like that, finding out where those people tend to meet, and if it's something that can be mentioned on an agenda or something like that. Like, I was just thinking with my work, I've only been able to run a couple of classes with the physios because we had some logistical problems with my manager and making sure that it's all proper with all of Allied Health. But it looks like I can start to open it up to all of Allied Health now. But I just sent out an email just to see, just to gauge how many people might be interested. And I only heard back from the physios because they've already done it with me a few times and they knew. But in the lunchroom, a few people sort of mentioned, oh yeah, but like you said, they've just forgotten the email, or there were hundreds of them and they read it and when I'll reply later. So I've got my manager to mention it at the admin meeting. So everyone has to be at the admin meeting, and then it gets brought up, and then it's just sort of more in people's
So that
mind.
Certainly is something we will talk about down the track, is, how do we help people talk about their experience? Certainly, going in and starting classes and things in a community where people talk to each other. So whether it's the tennis club or the parents club or the church or the whatever, if you get someone who's excited about what they're discovering and they start chatting to other people, that's your best form of advertising.
Okay, so I'm using a different strategy. So it's like social network. I don't aim them to come straight away. I just think of planting a seed in their brains, and then let them be, and then I just tell them that I'm doing this course. This is fantastic, and have you heard about it? And just talk.
And so the seed is the word Feldenkrais?
Feldenkrais, yes. Have you ever heard? And then they say what? The same. Yeah. We have a big article about it. And then I try to explain in as simple as I can, and then leave it up to them. And then they come, and sometimes they come back, and sometimes they hear from someone, and then they wanted to talk about it. Right. So I'm just planting a seed at the moment.
There are very many ways. So the skill that I would like you to begin to explore today is using words that might give you a better chance of getting your email opened or your brochure noticed or your message at least read I came across a while back a list of 180 words that are included in the most opened emails. So I've selected at random a couple of dozen of them. That's right. And so what I want you to do is to find a partner. Each of you come and get a word, and then go away into your little space and develop a headline. So whether it's like an email caption or a title for a brochure or a workshop or something, including the word that you've picked up. So you will come back in a little while. Each of you will have your sentence. It would be good if you could think about what would you actually follow that up with, in terms of, you know, if your headline is gargantuan Feldenkrais opportunity, what are you actually going to offer that people think, yeah, that's really what that was? Because if you're able to substantiate, if you're able to deliver on what you offer, you've got a much better chance of people coming back. If they get excited by the headline and they come and find that, you know, that's not really what you're offering at all, it doesn't do your credibility a lot of good. So pick a word. Now you might think the word does not go with Feldenkrais at all, but just for today it does. So your task is to put it into a sentence and just briefly to think about what is it that is behind the offer that you're making. Okay? It's a game.
Do we only get to have one word?
Yes.
Both of them?
No. One each. Oh, for crying out loud. You get one word each. You go away in a pair. You come back with 2 sentences or thereabouts. Ready, set, go.